Good morning, friends. So today we're going to read a nonfiction book about flamingos. And we know that when we read a nonfiction book, that means that it's a true story that's going to give us facts about something. So we're going to learn lots of facts about flamingos. So flashy flamingos. You can also tell that this is a nonfiction book because it has a table of contents. On the table of contents, you can find out where you might find information inside the book. So if you can't read the whole book, but you need to know where you can find flamingos in the world, you could look at page 2 and it says where in the world, and you could read just the information that you needed on that page. So on our table of content, it's telling us that on page 1, we're going to learn about how a flamingo is an interesting bird. On page 2, we're going to find out where in the world they can be found. On page 3, we're finding out about young flamingos. On page 4, we're finding out that the gang's all here. On page 5, we're going to find out what's for dinner. On page 6, we're going to find out did you know? And on page 7, we're going to find the glossary. An interesting bird. The flamingo is a wading bird. It has a long neck and long legs. It is also known for its bright pink feathers and the way it stands on one leg in the water. His webbed feet allow him to balance well in the muddy waters. In the wild, flamingos live between 20 and 30 years. When they live in captivity, they can also live for up to 50 years. As you can see, captivity is what we call a bolded word. When we see a word that's bolded, that's in bold in a nonfiction book, that means that we can find out what that word means in the glossary in the back. Where in the world? There are 6 different kinds of flamingos. The greater flamingo can be found in Africa, parts of Europe, and Asia. The lesser flamingo lives in Africa and Asia. The American flamingo is easy to find on the islands of Cuba, Aruba, and the Bahamas. When flamingos are found in the wild, it is in large areas of large shallow lakes, lagoons, mangrove swamps, and the sandy islands. Most of the time, if flamingos are seen in the United States, it's in captivity, like they are in a zoo. Young flamingos. Flamingo chicks will grow in their eggs for about a month. Their parents will take turns incubating them by sitting on them. Chicks that have just hatched will have white or gray feathers and swollen pink legs. Mother flamingos are one of only 3 birds that produce milk to feed their young. After about 7 days, chicks may adventure out of their nest, but they stay with other groups of chicks. This group is called a creche. After about 11 weeks, chicks will begin to grow their flight feathers, but they will begin swimming even earlier than that. Gangs all here. Flamingos are very social birds and will sometimes gather in groups of 1,000 or more. These groups are oftentimes called flocks. The flock is a way to protect themselves from predators. It also helps flamingos find the best food. Within these very large groups, they will break into smaller groups called colonies. The smaller groups are meant for finding mates. The smaller groups sometimes have a dance where they stretch their necks and shake their feathers at the same time. What's for dinner? The flamingo has an interesting way of eating. He will suck in muddy water in his beak. He will then push the water and dirt back out of the side of his beak. He is able to capture the food this way. Some flamingos like to eat small plants, while other flamingos eat small shrimp and insects. It all depends on the shape of his beak and what he can hold in the beak the best. The color of the flamingo's feathers completely depends on its diet. The foods that many flamingos like the most are rich in something called carotenoids. This plant pigment is also found in carrots. If you ate only carrots, your skin would turn orange too. Did you know when you see the flamingo bending its knee, that is actually the flamingo's ankle? When a flamingo stands with one leg pulled up behind him or her, this is thought to conserve body heat, which means that he's trying to keep himself warm. The flamingo is the national bird of the Bahamas, and the greater flamingo grows to over 5 feet tall, but only weighs 8 pounds. And see, here's our glossary. So if we didn't know what captivity means, we could look back and learn that it means to describe keeping wild animals in a closed area. Conserve means to protect. Diet means the kinds of foods an animal eats. Incubating means sitting on eggs to keep them warm. And produce means to make. Thanks for listening about all these interesting facts about flamingos.